Welcome to the Into Novus Knowledge Agronomy Podcast, your go-to resource for agronomic insights, technology solutions, and ongoing education. At Into, we combine agronomic expertise from soil analysis to best practice application methodologies to provide a holistic view for your yield optimization. Our focus is on practical strategies that improve efficiency and drive better results in the field. Join us for interesting discussions, expert advice, and the latest advancements shaping modern agriculture. Whether you're in the field, on the road, or at your facility, we're here to keep you informed and ahead of the curve. Welcome to the N2 podcast. Today, joined with my counterpart, Rodney Phelps in Illinois and Derek in Northwest Missouri. How you guys doing?
Great. A little cooler today.
Morning, Nick.
Morning, Derek. Yeah, it is a little chillier, Rodney. It kind of feels like fall finally. Not 80 degrees, but down in the 40s this morning. I thought, guys, we might start with just a little harvest update, maybe some takeaways so far for each one of you and your geographies, and then we could jump into a couple, I think, probably quick, timely agronomy topics. Maybe just to start with that kind of that harvest update, key takeaways. We start with Derek up there in Northwest Missouri. What have you seen so far, Derek?
Yeah, harvest, it's still progressing along good. I think if you've listened to the last couple episodes, you've heard me say I think Northwest Missouri's probably been a little bit behind you and Rodney's territory, but I get reminded every year how quickly we can catch back up. I think for the most part, most growers are probably about on pace, but we probably do have a little bit more crop in left than you guys. Yields have still been variable. We're getting to that late point in the season where fungicide wasn't used and things like that, and disease was bad, that there's some concern around some of that corn wanting to fall over, and some guys are making priority on getting that late corn taken out quickly. Bean moisture still holding on. I know last week we were still harvesting 12% moisture beans, which is excellent. And those yields tend to still be pretty good, but and corn as well. It's just variable, like it has been. But now with the crop coming out, we're starting to focus more on, fall fertility, fall herbicides, things like that.
Appreciate it, Derek. What about you, Rodney?
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same as Derek. We're well advanced into harvest. A lot of the soybeans have been cut, and unlike Derek, they were single digits. We were extremely dry through bean harvest, extremely warm, and so a lot of low moisture beans were cut. Yields were good, and I would say more consistent than corn. Corn was very variable. Corn harvest is 95% complete. There are pockets here in Illinois that aren't that advanced, but for what I cover, we'll be done by the end of October with most of harvest. Corn yields, like I said, were variable. Some that was managed, like Derek said, did well, but this past weekend we had heavy winds, and yesterday, and I was talking with a gentleman last night that harvested 30 acres all day yesterday one way because the wind blew that corn over. So this last part of harvest may be a challenge, but there's not a lot to get.
Appreciate that, Rodney. Yeah, I guess for me, we're full swing into it. I think we're ahead of Derek, probably more similar to Rodney. You might be ahead of us even. Yeah, but it varies a lot between my east and west. The west central Missouri, some of those guys are finished up and done, or almost finished up and done. And then as you go east, where we had later planting, still maybe some of those guys only halfway done. So I'm going to say we probably only got the last third or so of the harvest if I was going to put a number across east to west where we're at. I think Rodney nailed it with the variability. That would be us in general, and that would be corn and soybeans both. I mean, yields on corn, field averages, I've heard anywhere from 120 on a low to almost 300 on a high. Soybeans, I've heard as low as 30 all the way up to 90 bushel field averages. It just depends where you're at, what your soil type is like, how much rain you had. So variability was the key. I think Derek and I were talking yesterday. I mean, the early soybean planting thing showed again this year, where guys were able to get them out early, get them out in April. Those beans have been the best. And then I'll just say management, really corn or soybeans, both really management paid, but especially in corn, you start talking about fungicide, nitrogen, overall fertility, just where you really manage that crop. It really responded this year. And last year we had just a perfect year, and it seemed like everyone could raise some really good yields. But this year, where it was managed well, those guys really reaped the benefits to it. And even in soybeans, though, too. I mean, the fungicide insecticide combinations, few of the ways that we've done, been pretty consistent 10 bushels. So I guess the two words for me, 2025, would be variability and management. The two takeaways. Well, I appreciate that as far as the updates, guys. Maybe moving into some of those agronomy, the quick hitters, so to speak. Derek, want to just start off with fall herbicide applications. We've talked about those in previous episodes, and so I think we've kind of set that up well. But now that the time is upon us right now, crop being harvested, winter annual weeds coming on, it's probably time to talk about it one more time. A quick reminder. So I guess the first question some folks might answer or might ask: generally, we might wait until November before we apply a fall herbicide. Is it too early to do it today or not?
Yeah, no, it's time to go. In my opinion, um, even last week out in fields, I think as warm as it's been, and I'm speaking for my territory because we've been fortunate to get some moisture. We've stayed pretty warm, and last week out in fields, especially like in bean stubble where we don't have a lot of residue, henbit and chickweed, it's coming on strong. It's coming on hard, and I would go ahead and start making those applications. Yes, we like to hold off those applications as long as possible. But my advice, though, if you're going to go this early, and I say this early, I don't consider this early at all, but I would, throw in the residual option in there as well, along with your glyphosates, your 2,4-Ds, your dicambas, those traditional fall burn down type products. But make sure you're throwing in a residual option in there as well, because the weeds are coming on very strong with our moisture and our heat that we've had here recently. We are starting to cool down. And so with that, I will also remind guys, as we cool down, our burn down performance with some of our herbicides might tend to fall off. So make sure you're using full rates, full adjuvant loads, and things like that. And, use that fall herbicide as an option to get that residue management in line as well.
So, and Derek, just another couple of quick questions. You hinted at the program, but everybody's program is going to be a little different, but what would you recommend as a program right now if you're going out and spraying?
I like either your 2,4-D or dicamba, or you could possibly tank mix both. Now, from residual options, things like Valor are very, very good. Metribuzin, even some of our sulfentrazone type products tend to work really well in the fall. Those I would, I think we've talked about this before the last time, but I'm a big fan of keeping it simple. If there are weeds present, I do recommend having glyphosate in the mix, even though a lot of our primary weeds are glyphosate resistant. But I would have, a standard product for me might be glyphosate, 2,4-D, and metribuzin, or glyphosate, dicamba, and Valor if there's weeds present. If there's no weeds there, you can do a lay-by treatment, a very simple treatment of Valor. 2 to 3 ounces of Valor in the fall can work very well from a residual standpoint. So it's not the same. I guess my best recommendation is keep it simple, because all we're trying to do is set ourselves up for a good spring.
Yeah, and that last point, you were hinting at a loaded question I was going to ask you, but what's with a fall applied herbicide? Maybe this is a little bit loaded, but what's the focus from that come spring? Like what's the goal?
Yeah, the goal is to make sure our pre's are successful. I think the misconception, I guess the goal of our fall is not to ride us out until our first post app. They don't replace a spring application, in my opinion, a spring pre, a need for a pre, but they make those more successful. They buy us time because we don't know what's going to happen next spring. If it's going to be wet and we're only going to have a few days to plant and put on our pre and things like that. But if I got to fall on, you just bought yourself some insurance in the spring to make sure, whether it's your burn down, your residual treatment, is you got much better chance that those are going to be successful when that fall app is made. And so if there's a few weeds present in your field next spring, it doesn't mean that your fall application wasn't successful, but it does make sure that our pre's, which tend to fail, we always talk about if we don't start clean, it's hard to stay clean. But with that fall, we just increased our odds. Like I said, we bought that insurance that we're going to be able to start clean.
And
That's perfect.
a comment
Go
I'll
ahead.
make, guys, is I'll take the memory back to this spring, all the purple henbit that we had on the fields. I was laughing with Nick early. It looked like you were driving by a field of flowers. So, but if we get a fall burn down on there and get some, as Derek's saying, some residual, then you won't have that purple henbit pressure as bad, and it's a lot easier to get in check if we have a fall burn down.
Yeah, that's perfect, Rodney. And Derek, yeah, I think you hit on that perfectly. I think you have things like mare's tail weeds like that. The easiest way to control it's in the fall. We can get into the whole pest thing. We reduce winter annuals. We can reduce pressure from black cutworm, etc. But yeah, that's the point I was hoping you'd get to, which is just the fact that the focus is to provide a clean seed bed at planting. I've just seen the last couple of years some disasters by us planting into a clean seed bed and then thinking, oh, this is still holding. We'll just wait to apply our post treatment or our pre treatment. And then you fall asleep a little bit and the water hemp starts coming. And that's one thing about it. These fall treatments are not focused on summer annual weed control. They're not focused on water hemp control. They're to get you a clean seed bed. And really that's it. And then we just focus on spring control from that point forward. So yeah, I appreciate that. Rodney, I think that's kind of a perfect segue, the fall herbicide applications, into what kind of products or what could we do differently to add to this fall herbicide pass if we want to try something new?
So some things, since if we're gonna have a sprayer going across a field, we can look at some stalk degradation products. And our goal when I say stalk degradation, our goal is to speed up residue breakdown. And we're talking about our spring with our weeds. We're also want a good plantability for the spring so that we can have even emergence in our crop, whether it be corn or beans, and also accelerate the leaching of nutrients that are tied up in the stalks in corn and even the bean residue. Um, Mainly potash we're after, but there's also some nitrogen tied up. And when we get in the mineralization phase in the summer, we need to have that stalk in a position to release the nutrients that has got tied up in it. And with the economics that we're dealing with, think about the fertilizer that we applied for the 25 crop, and then we look at what we took off in grain, but what we left behind in our stalks and our bean stubble, there's nutrients there that we need to get some of for the 26 crop. So if we're going to do a fall burn down, it's a very good time to put these type of stalk degradation products in. And so you're probably some guys say, well, what is? Well, we're talking about biologicals. We're talking about sequestering products, things that will get into the stalks and accelerate that breakdown. So it will get into the stalks and the soybean stubble, and then Mother Nature helps us through the winter and then into the summer and to release some of the nutrients. But the biggest thing would be plantability. And as we get all this trash, and especially in no-till, it's just becoming a larger and larger issue of getting that out of the way so that we have a clean seed bed, and therefore we can get uniform emergence. So while we're talking fall burn down, I also think we need to look at throwing stock degradation products in with that pass also.
Yeah, those are good points, Rodney. I think that's one of the things that I never played around with them until the last couple of years. But one thing I've noticed with some of those products is just the fact that you apply those products and you do get breakdown of that stalk and it does seem to shatter away when you run the planter across it. But just the fact that it's eating up the underground growth too, as far as the root balls from that corn crop the year before, and so it makes plantability a lot easier. Um, Derek, I might put you on the spot too on this because we've talked about this before. But what's the difference in going out there with like one of these stalk degradation products that Rodney's talking about versus the old adage people going out there with 32% in the fall to try to increase stalk breakdown?
I think, yeah. So UAN is a component of some stock degradation programs, balancing that carbon to nitrogen ratio with the nitrogen that you get with the UAN. But what I guess these additional products do is they buffer that salt content in UAN. And so, we got to remember why our stocks break down at all. And that's because of the microbes and the biology in the soil. And high salt content spraying UAN, you actually kill those bacteria in the soil. And essentially, some of these degradation products, they will actually buffer that salt content. And therefore, your natural biology that would naturally break down the residue anyways is going to be more plentiful by buffering that UAN and things like that you have in that spray mix. I think that's what you're getting at, Nick. But
Yep, you nailed it, Derek. I just thought that was a good point to share with the group. And then
yeah,
also, like some of the products that Ronnie's talking about, we're providing real biology too to help with that breakdown as well.
yeah, yeah.
Good points, guys. Good segment there, Rodney. Speaking of biology, I guess along that line, I just wanted to get into a little bit of right now we're hitting the point where we're just about to fall anhydrous applications. And I think, Rodney, I think you're there right now.
Yes, we actually started yesterday in some spots, and now with the cool temperatures, soil temp was 54 degrees yesterday. So it's go time for us to get over all the acres we need to get over.
So, Rodney, a little bit further north than where we're at or where I'm at. And so, we're a little behind that. We'll wait just a little bit longer. And probably next week, things might start opening a little bit for us. But I did want to get in just a few quick hitters on that. And so, a lot of talk about when do you start fall anhydrous applications? When's the right time? And obviously, you look at any textbook, you talk to an agronomist, they're going to tell you 50 degrees and trending downward on soil temperatures. So, staying below 50 is when you apply. The reason why you do that is the microbes that break down, you're applying anhydrous ammonia, which is a gas. You put it on the soil, it converts to ammonium, which is a positive charge, which means it's very stable in the soil. The problem is microbes over time will convert that to nitrate, which is a negative charge, which through the profile,
I,
if it's a silty, sandy soil, leaching, or to denitrification going out the top if we're on a wet clay pan type soil, which is what I deal with to the east. The idea is if you wait till 50 degrees and trending downward, the microbes that convert that from ammonium to nitrate, they drastically decrease their activity. So they're very slow 50 degrees and below, whereas they start to speed up above 50. So that's why we kind of target that 50 degrees and trending downward. The biology slows down. That is also, though, why we include a nitrogen stabilizer. And really specifically, what we're going after is a nitrification inhibitor. And all that all that means is it holds the product in the ammonium form, the positive charge form, longer before the microbes can convert it to nitrate. So there's a lot of those products. I mean, Inserve is probably the one most people think about because it's been around the longest. There's some other newer products that are out there as well, Centuro, Function, a lot of different ones that are out there on the landscape. But the idea behind those products is just to keep that anhydrous in the ammonium form longer. And we tend to apply those in the fall, obviously, because the window between application and planting is a lot wider, a chance for more ups and downs in that temperature, a chance for us to lose that. So even if we do get some days, and in Missouri we will anyways, in the wintertime where the temperature gets up a little bit, brings the soil temperature up, that product can help buffer that amount of time before it becomes nitrate. So that's what we're really focused on, really advocate putting on some kind of nitrification inhibitor stabilizer, i.e., with fall applied anhydrous applications. And I guess the last point too that I would make is we're talking about fall applied anhydrous. There can be some points that people make about the fact that, well, you're putting it on way in advance of when you need it. So there's a longer gap between planting and application. saying there can be some disadvantages there in terms of losability, et cetera. But if we wait till 50 degrees trending downward, if we apply a stabilizer, in my opinion, there's also a lot of benefits too. And I hate to be a generalist agronomist here, Rodney, but one comment I like to make a lot is I think there's probably been more yield loss in corn to anhydrous supplied in the spring due to compaction than there probably ever has from fall applied in loss. Like I think there's because in the spring we tend to apply anhydrous when things are not quite right because we don't want to slow down our planting window, so we might get out there and apply it when things are still a little bit muddy to get going. We compact that soil, and then we'll see that in that corn crop. Where in the fall, I mean, you have ideal conditions. You've got the winter for that compaction to come out. It also allows for earlier planting. Now, I'm not saying that all anhydrous needs to move to fall applications. All I'm doing is making the point of why some folks might want to make a fall applied application. Now, if you're super patient, you're willing to wait in the spring, you're going to put it on deep enough that that system works great too. But just making the point where some guys that like to go in the fall, there's some reasons why they do like to go in the fall. But with that said, I don't know if you guys want to add any other points to this fall anhydrous application comments.
No, I think you covered it perfect. The big thing is, though, I caution is to wait for the soil temp, and Nick said it a couple, 3 times when it's trending down, so that we've got a lot of money in our inputs, and we want to make sure we keep it, so we've got it for the plant. One thing I'll also say is watch your CECs on your soils and don't over apply anhydrous, because CEC is like your gas tank and it can only hold so much. So, kind of watch CECs and make sure you're not over applying anhydrous also.
Yeah, from my stand, guys, I think you guys, I don't think I could add any more to you guys' really good points there, but I would agree with all that.
Yeah, I guess one other comment I would make is, definitely watch that soil temperature trending downward. I will say though that there tends to be sometimes in Missouri in the fall, when that cold front comes in and the temperatures cool down, sometimes there tends to be a rain front that comes with that, and that could put you out for a while. So we do want 50 and trending downward. But if you can see in the forecast in the next few days that cool down is coming, then I'm not against, applying 1 or 2 days ahead of that, just seeing that coming. But just because in my career over and over again, I've seen where someone says it's way too warm, it's way too warm, it's way too warm. And then rain comes and they're shut down for the rest of the fall. And so, yeah, definitely wait for that trending downward, but also take a look at the forecast to see what's coming. Good points, guys. Anything else you guys want to add in terms of fall herbicide or stalk breakdown or anhydrous applications, et cetera?
We've said all along it's go time now for the fall work to wrap up the season. So it's go time.
Yep, I agree with Rodney. It's time to get it done.
Yeah, I think the ears are pinned down. Everybody's trying to finish up, and then we'll move on to field work after that. But I appreciate it very much. Thanks, guys, and thanks to everyone for listening. We look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you for joining us. This podcast is brought to you by Into Novus Knowledge. Please reach out to your Into agronomist if we can help in any way. Join us next time for more in-depth agronomic advice.